Hi, I am Bire Vellema. Welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about ITIL Foundation. Not as a complete training, but as an addition to the study you are doing or have already completed. I intend to give you some extra information helping you to complete your certification for the ITIL4 Foundation exam. A lot of the material I used in this video do come from the PeopleCert website and their learner documentation. A quick history of ITIL. ITIL was developed by the UK government during the 80s in response to government and private sector creating their own IT management processes. The first version was published in 1989, followed in 2000 with version 2, which included improvements and expansions. Additional topics were added like problem management, incident management, security management, etc. Version 3 was released in 2007. It emphasized the service lifecycle approach, comprising 5 core publications, being service strategy, service design, service transition, service operation, and continual service improvement. Also, the concept of the service value system was introduced, emphasizing value co-creation. The latest evolution, version 4, was launched in February. Modern practices including Agile, DevOps, and Lean. The focus is on end-to-end delivery, emphasizing collaboration, flexibility, and adaptability. ITIL4 introduces the service value chain, which integrates activities across the service value system. The ITIL learning path. The module, which is a prerequisite for all other modules, is the foundation module. This also holds a lot of information, knowledge that is referred to in all other modules. To me, if you want to go down the ITIL path to spend sufficient time on the ITIL foundation, it is like a house. It all starts with a solid foundation. Part of the certification process is that you will have to complete an exam for every module. I will talk a bit more about that in the next slide, specifically for the ITIL foundation certification. There are 3 major designations that you can follow. Depending on job requirements or your aspirations, you can choose one of the following paths: practice manager, managing professional, and strategic leader. If you complete all 3 designations, you become an ITIL master. For practice manager, there are 15 modules of which you need to complete any 5 of those modules. However, you also can choose to go for the available packages being monitor, support, and fulfill, plan, implement, and control, collaborate, assure, and improve. Bit dependent on your role, you can choose one of these which is closest to your day-to-day work or in line with what you might want to do in the future. You do, however, have to complete the Create, Deliver, and Support certification to become practice manager. For managing professional and strategic leader, you need to complete the Direct, Plan, and Improve certification, one I personally like a lot completing. There are also 4 additional extension modules available, not leading to a specific destination, but these are a further addition to the framework. ITIL4 certifications have been recognized by Forbes as being among the top 10 certificates to have on your resume in 2024. This certificate is crucial for anyone looking to enhance their resume, increase their marketability, and potentially boost their salary. What do you all need to know to pass the exam successfully? In the next videos I will cover the specific sections from the syllabus on the items which I'm going to cover in those videos. The syllabus has either been shared as part of your training or you can Google it for it to get a copy. The main topics you must understand are the following. Understand the key concept of service value management. Understand how the ITIL guiding principles can help an organization adopt and adapt to service management. Understand the 4 dimensions of service management. Understand the purpose and components of the ITIL service value system. Understand the activities of the service value chain and how they interconnect. Describe the interconnected nature of the service value chain and how this supports value streams. Know the purpose and key terms of 15 ITIL practices. Understand and explain 7 ITIL practices in detail. A bit busy slide, I do realize that. Not going to talk about this slide in real detail. Just a quick overview of all the 34 practices that ITIL4 gives us. It is split up in 3 major areas. the general management practices, the service management practices, and the technical management practices. For the bold marked practices, you need to understand the purpose. And for the bold and underlined practices, you need to understand the practice in detail. You can also find this information back in the syllabus which you received as part of your training, or you can quickly Google it and download it from the various places on the web. What do you need to do to pass the exam successfully? The exam contains 40 questions, of which you need to get 26 questions correct. The questions are Bloom's Level 1 and 2, meaning Bloom's Level 1 questions you need to recall information about the ITIL4 Service Management Framework. For Bloom's Level 2 questions, you need to show understanding of these concepts. You got 60 minutes to complete the exam. If you are not from a native English country or not natively speak English, you get 15% extra time. It is a closed book exam, hence no books or other paperwork allowed. It is a proctored exam. You need to have a laptop with webcam to be able to complete the exams. There is an option to simulate taking the exam, which I really strongly advise to become familiar with the interface to make sure everything works as it should. Throughout the exam, there is a proctor available to assist you in case of issues. The second part of my video series. This section will be about key concepts of service management. As promised in part 1, the video introduction, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to cover in each video. In this video I'm going to talk about the key concepts of service management, a lot of the definitions to remember, creating value with services, and the key concepts of service relationships. The key concepts of creating value with service. On this topic I am going to talk about output, outcome, value, risks, and more. When I created this video, I considered if I first should talk about the service value system or follow the general learning path and talk about the key concept. I decided to talk about the service value system in a later video, however, still could not resist to show it quickly in this video. In the next slide I'm going to talk about the following items: service, utility, warranty, customer, user, service management, sponsor and stakeholders. Questions from the certifications are at Bloom Level 1. Hence, you need to be able to recall them. Some of the definitions will be logical, but just as a reminder and freshening up everything from an ITIL perspective. I will go over these fairly quickly and read out the definitions to move on to the next section in this video and talk about key concepts of creating value with services. A good understanding of the key concepts and their terminology is critical for the good use of the ITIL guidance. It's not just for getting your ITIL Foundation certification. I personally did find the knowledge of the ITIL framework extremely helpful dealing with issues with my work life. Before talking about different definitions, let's ask ourselves first, what is service management? Do you think you are involved in it? Is it just managing a service, or is there more to do with service management? Let us take a look at the definition of service management. A set of specialized organization capabilities for enabling value for customers in the form of services. It is a holistic approach end-to-end from demand to value. If you recall the slide I quickly showed about the service value system, it starts with demand or opportunity to create value for our customers. Hence, to come back to my initial question, are you involved in service management? I'm pretty sure you are, one way or the other involved in service management, where you are busy creating value for stakeholders. This can be service assurance, service delivery, sales, or any other function to deliver value for stakeholders. A term you often hear is co-creation of value. In the end, you need more parties in the creation of value. We can build the most brilliant services, but if they are not used, there is no co-creation of value or usage of the service. From a lean perspective, we would call this waste and should stop the service. Stakeholders are important. This is a person who has an interest in something we deliver or what we do. There are internal and external stakeholders. Some examples of internal stakeholders are employees, internal customers. Examples of external stakeholders are external users, customers, governmental bodies, suppliers, and vendors. In the table 2.1, which I took from the Foundation ebook, you'll find some more examples of stakeholders. If you entered your exam code on PeopleSearch, you will get access to the ebook for further studying. Service, a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating desired outcomes without the customer having to manage specific costs and risks. In other words, the consumer asks a service provider to do activities which, for instance, is not their core business, hence work with another party to deliver that service to them. To give a very simple example, if you have a package which needs to be delivered across the country to its destination, you ask a logistic company to deliver that package for you. The logistic company takes care of the transportation and the risk during the transportation. You pay a fee to them to get the package delivered at the other side of the country. You do not have to worry about the costs or risks of the logistics process. It is a service you acquire to get a package delivered to its destination. A product is a configuration of an organization's resources designed to offer value for a consumer. In previous example, the logistic company has a product for package delivery. We drop it off and the resources, processes and practices make sure it's get delivered at its destination. To take the key message from the Foundation book, the services that an organization provides are based on one or more of its products. Organizations own or have access to a variety of resources, including people, information and technology, value streams and processes, and partners and suppliers. Products are a configuration of these resources created by the organization that will potentially be valuable for its customers. If you already have completed your training, you recognize the four dimensions in this message. Not sure why, but I have been struggling for some time to keep both warranty and unity separate and remember what both do mean, mainly with utility, as it can have different meanings depending on the context it is used. I'm not going to read out these descriptions. You can pause the video for a moment and read them. It is important to have utility and warranty defined for the services, having the right functionality and a guarantee that requirements will be met as stated in the service offering. To have utility, a service must either support the performance of the consumer or remove constraints from the consumer. Many services do both. They must be fit for purpose. Warranty often relates to the service levels aligned with the needs of a service consumer. This may be based on a formal agreement. Warranty typically addresses areas such as the availability of the service, its capacity, levels of security and continuity. A service may be said to provide acceptable assurance or warranty. If all defined and agreed conditions are met, it is fit for use. For any service, it is important that both utility and warranty are fulfilled to create the desired outcome. With this slide, I'm going to cover the role of users, sponsors and customers, or just short, the service consumer roles. Users are the one who actually use the service. Sponsors who authorize the funding, and the customer is involved in defining the requirements and takes responsibility for the outcomes. For most organizations, these roles are generally separate roles. However, the roles can be performed by a single person, for example, a one-man company, or you purchasing, for example, a new television. You define the requirements, the budget, and in the end will be the user of your newly bought television. I talked about service provider already a few times. We often take this as an external party, but a service provider can be an internal party, a department delivering services to other parts of the business you are part of. A service provider is an organization to create and deliver services to another party, either internal or external. In the next slides, I'm going to talk about the following items, which in some cases will include the definitions of these topics. And no, I'm not going to read them all out. You can all see them here on the screen. Now, let's go on with it and dive deeper into these exciting topics. In the heading of this slide, I started with the abbreviation VOCR, which stands for Value, Outcome, Costs and Risks, an abbreviation you will come across more often. The term value is regularly used in service management, not only related towards the ITIL framework. It is a key focus in ITIL, but you also come across it in DevOps and Lean as a key item. The value definition, the perceived benefits, usefulness and importance of something. Start thinking about it when something is important to us, our customers. It is about adding something, a benefit or something useful, delivering a need or a requirement for the stakeholder. For value creation, we have service providers delivering a service and service consumers obtaining the service. We need to have value co-creation, as I referred to earlier in this video. Costs, the money we spend in the end on achieving something. As I will show in the next slide, there are two types of cost. Costs introduced and costs removed in a service relationship. The purpose of risk management practice. A possible event that would cause harm or loss or make it more difficult to achieve objectives. Can also be defined as uncertainty of outcome and can be used in the context of measuring the probability of positive outcomes as well as negative outcomes. Output and outcome sometimes are mixed with each other, which should not be mixed up. Outcome is a result of something, which can be multiple outputs from different processes. As you can read in the slide, an output is the result of an activity and likely to be used as an input for another activity to create the output required for an outcome. Nothing in our daily life is without risk. Risks are a possible event that could cause harm or loss, or make it more difficult to achieve objectives. Can also be defined as uncertainty of outcome, and can be used in the context of measuring the probability of positive outcomes as well as negative outcomes. We look at two types of risks: risks removed from the customer or risk introduced by a service to the customer. It is the responsibility of the service provider to manage these risks on behalf of the service consumer. A bit double slide looking at the previous slide, however, still very useful. It is all about value and value co-creation. Figure 2.2 out of the Foundation book shows us the balance between costs, risks and outcome. What are the risks introduced versus removed? Costs removed versus introduced, etc. Organizations come in various shapes and sizes, from multinational corporations to local non-profits. At the core, organizations are dynamic entities that bring people together to achieve common goals. They operate with a web of structure, culture and processes. Hierarchies emerge, roles are defined and communication channels established. From an ITIL perspective, we define an organization as a person or a group of people that has its own functions with responsibilities, authorities and relationships to achieve its objectives. In the last section of this video, I'm going to talk about service offering, service relationship management, service provisioning and consumption. As some of you might have noticed, I'm trying to follow a bit the order how you can find everything back in the syllabus on the items you need to know. A service offering, or maybe I should state marketing statement, the way how a service provider makes their promises to the market and service consumers with a formal statement. To read it out, a formal description of one or more services designed to address the needs of a target customer group. A service offering may include goods, key to resources and service actions. As mentioned, service offering can be goods to be supplied, for example, you buying your television. Access to resources, for example, your Disney, Netflix or Amazon Prime subscription. You are granted access to content. Service actions performed by a provider, for example, user support. What are service relationships? Just look at it from a definition point of view. Service relationships are a cooperation between a service provider and service consumer. You need to have two or more parties to co-create value. Service relationships include service provisioning, service consumption, and service relationship management. There's a lot behind the service relationship management practice and extremely important for the continuous delivery of co-creation of value between the customer and the provider. In this picture you see the service relationship model. What it is showing is that every service provider in the end is also a service consumer. It also requires services from another service provider or supplier to create and deliver its services to other consumers. Between all these parties we have agreements, or in other words, service relationships. Service relationship management is a joint activity performed by a service provider and a service consumer to ensure continual value co-creation based on agreed and available service offerings. Service provisioning makes sure the required services are properly configured, access to service provider resources is arranged, and that goods have been transferred if applicable. Service consumer is a generic role that is used to simplify the definition and description of the structure of service relationships. In practice, there are more specific roles involved in service consumption, such as customers, users, and sponsors. These roles can be separate or combined, as I talked about customers, users, and sponsors earlier in this video. They can be separate roles or combined in a single role. I used the example of buying a new television. This video is about the key concepts of service management. What do you need to know from an ITIL Foundation point of view with respect to the several definitions? Being able to describe the key concepts in creating value with services and understand the key concepts of service relationship. Just as a quick recap, I talked about the following definitions: service, utility and warranty, customer, user, sponsor, and service management. I further on talked about the concepts of creating value, the difference between output and outcome. Being able to describe the key concepts of service relationship, what is a service offering and what does service relationship management mean? Similarly, what is meant with the service provision and service consumption, the role of service provider and consumer. Just as a reminder, did I cover everything you need to know? No, I do not. This video is just too short to cover everything from a full trainings perspective. I did cover most of the topics you will need to have made your own. This in the end is an addition to your learning path to help you succeed on your ITIL Foundation journey. A quick quiz, just a few questions. Before I show the multiple choice answers, read the questions and think of the answer before reading the answers. You get an idea here of the possible answers. I gave you a little bit of time to look at the answer. The answer here is outcome. One more question. Again, read the answer and think of the possible answer. The correct answer is service relationship management. Service relationship management are joint activities performed by a service provider and a service consumer to ensure continual value co-creation based on agreed and available service offering. You also could go over the answers in the following way. For co-creation, you need at least two parties. Service provision is only done by the service provider. Consumption only by the service consumer. And service offering is a marketing statement from the service provider. For service relationship management, you do need to have two parties involved to the co-creation of value. The third part of this video. In this section, I'm going to talk about the guiding principles of service management. As promised in the introduction video, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to talk about. In this video, I'm going to talk about the guiding principles, which are: focus on value, start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, collaborate and promote visibility, think and work holistically, keep it simple and practical, optimize and automate. For the exam, you will need to understand the nature, use and interaction of the guiding principles and explain the use of the guiding principles. When I prepared for my foundation exam, I also memorized all the guiding principles, but also keep in mind you have to understand the use of the guiding principles. As I said in my earlier videos, this is not a training, just an addition to the learning path you are on to help you succeed in your ITIL4 Foundation certification journey. These videos are just too short to cover everything you need to know. It is an addition or a refresher of everything you need to know. A final note before I move on to the next slide. These are guidances meant to facilitate practices and processes. They are not policies. Now, let's move on the next slide and talk about the guiding principles. A guiding principle is a recommendation that guides an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in its goals, strategies, type of work, or management structure. A guiding principle is universal and enduring. This also means in your personal life it's not just related to service management. The guiding principles are applicable to practically any initiative or decision making and to all relationships with stakeholder groups. They can be used to guide organizations in their work as they adopt a service management practice approach and adopt ITIL guidance to their own specific needs and circumstances. Are the guiding principles unique to ITIL4? No, they are not. You also find them in other frameworks such as Lean, Agile, DevOps, and COBIT. The guiding principles encourage organizations in continual improvement at all levels. They are universally applicable to nearly any initiative and to relationships with stakeholder groups. One of the remarks I picked up from a recent seminar about AI in ITSM following advice was given. If you want to start with AI and introduce AI, use the guiding principles to introduce it. The guiding principles do give you the right guidance. I personally think the guiding principles and ITIL's continual improvement model should go hand in hand. In the end, continual improvement is a deliberate made change. Focus on value. The guiding principle already says a lot. Does it add value? Is it useful? Is it beneficial to our stakeholders, customers, or users? Everything we look at from a service management perspective. Keep focusing on value. If it doesn't add value, we probably shouldn't be doing it, or even try to improve it is very likely waste. To quote Elon Musk, do not try to improve anything which shouldn't be there. Looking at the features of the products and services, they can be used in a different way than we intended when we were designing them. How a customer or user uses the products and services is essential to know. Who are the stakeholders? How does the service or product create value for them? In the end, our customers use the services and products from their service providers to get a job done. From a personal practice, I know that an unintended capability sometimes can be a great feature for our customers. Customers use, in the end, our services and products to get a job done, as I just said before. An important element of value is the experience that service consumers have when they interact with the service of the service providers. The customer experience or user experience must be actively managed. When I talked about VOCR, value, outcome, cost and risks in the previous video, this is something what we need to take into consideration. How do we co-create value with our customers? When analyzing a practice, process, service, metric or other improvement target, always ask whether it contributes to value co-creation. As I said, if it doesn't, we probably shouldn't be doing it. With the remark, in some cases there could be regulatory requirements why we have to do these activities. When considering applying on value, keep this in mind, and yes, already could read them out in the previous slide, but just to highlight them. Know how service consumers use each service or product. Encourage a focus on value amongst all staff. Focus on value during normal operational activities. Focus on value during each improvement initiative. The next guiding principle, start where you are. With everything we do, always keep in mind what we already got, what is already in place. We do not have to start from scratch. There is very likely already a lot in place we can reuse. To take the key message from the foundation book, in the process of eliminating all unsuccessful methods or services and creating something better, there can be great temptation to remove what has been done in the past and build something completely new. This is rarely necessary or a wise decision. This approach can be extremely wasteful, not only in terms of time, but also in terms of the loss of existing services, processes, people and tools that could have significant value and improvement effort. Do not start over without first considering what is already available to be leveraged. Make sure you collect data, accurate measurements on the current state, helping to make the correct decisions to move forward. Do not act upon just a gut feeling. Once we have reviewed everything and there is nothing useful, we can start from a greenfield situation, just from scratch. Applying the guiding principle. Start where you are. Look at what exists as objectively as possible. Leverage what already exists today. It will reduce the amount of work needed to transition from the current state to the desired state. Apply your risk management skills. Reusing something from the old practice or introducing a new way of working both holds risks with them. Recognize that sometimes nothing from the current state can be reused. With everything we do, keep the guiding principle progress iteratively with feedback in mind. Try to be as agile as possible. Take small steps. Celebrate these steps and give feedback on the achieved results. It works motivational for the team as well for the overall organization to get regular feedback on progress or achievement made. Large projects which take over a year, who do not take small steps and only communicate their achievements at the end on goals achieved, are likely to fail. In the end, change is the only constant. Feedback keeps us on track. It is important to also during the iterative activities or improvement initiatives to also collect feedback before, during and after the initiatives to keep everything on track, making sure the desired outcomes for the stakeholders are achieved. As a side note, change is the only constant. It is not new for the current digital era. Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher, once famously stated, "There is nothing permanent except change." Applying the guiding principle progress iteratively with feedback. Comprehend the whole, but do something. Do not overanalyze trying to understand every detail. Sometimes too much time is lost before anything gets done, also called analysis paralysis. Everything keeps changing, so feedback is essential. As mentioned on previous slide, everything keeps changing, the only constant. Hence, keep collecting feedback at the beginning, during, and at the end of the initiative. Fast doesn't mean incomplete. Taking small iterative steps does not mean these are incomplete. Keep in mind a minimum viable product. A minimum viable product is a product with just enough features to satisfy early customers and to provide feedback for early development projects. The guiding principle: collaborate and promote visibility. A couple of thoughts which usually cross my mind. 1 and 1 is 3, 2 always no more than 1. Hence, work together. Or another example, say what you do. It might give other people around you in the same team a thought or trigger an idea of wisdom that could help you. Hence, work together and share what you do. To take the lines from the Foundation book, creative solutions, enthusiastic contribution are important perspective and can be obtained from unexpected sources. So inclusion is generally a better policy than exclusion. Cooperation and collaboration are better than isolated work, which is frequently referred to as siloed activity. Without effective collaboration, neither Agile, Lean, nor any other ITSM framework or method will work. How to apply the guiding principle: collaborate and promote visibility. Collaboration doesn't mean consensus. You do not need to have consensus with everyone. Trying to do that can cause nothing to even start. Communicate in a way that the audience can hear. Communication is often taken too lightly. It is very important. Keep in mind the audience when you communicate. Ask for feedback, but do make sure there is a form of information sharing. If an initiative is not heard upon, it is likely deemed as not being important. Decisions can only be made on visible data. Like every decision making, decisions are best made on the data that is available. If there is incomplete or lacking data, decisions might be made differently than desired or available due to the lack of information. The guiding principle: think and work holistically. Make me always think of the theory of constraints. When we focused on the weakest link and improve it, With think and work holistically, we want to achieve the same thing. Look at initiative, project or improvement action end to end. Keep a holistic view. For example, have an improvement action in a department B which increases production capacity by 200%. But Department A, responsible for the input of Department B, can only deliver 15% of the capacity. The initiative is not useful, does not have a holistic view. To take the key message from the Foundation book, no service, practice, process, department or supplier stands alone. The outputs that the organization delivers to itself, its customers and other stakeholders will suffer unless it works in an integrated way to handle its activities as a whole, rather than as separate parts. All the organization's activities should be focused on the delivery of value. Applying the guiding principles, think and work holistically. Recognize the complexity of the system. Collaboration is key to thinking and working holistically. Where possible, look for patterns in the needs of and interaction between system elements. With systems in this case, keep in mind the 4 dimensions of service management. Automation can facilitate working holistically. When automating activities, it's common to take an end-to-end look at the overall value streams and processes. Keep it simple silly. The KISS statement is what I suspect has been the inspiration for the guiding principle. Keep it simple and practical. Why should we do things in 10 steps when we can do it in 2? Maybe there are regulatory requirements which demands it. But if not, why use the 10 steps? Keep it simple, which of course does not mean by reducing the steps we make things extremely difficult. Also keep back in mind the lean principle. If steps include hands-off, that likely also means queues. From a lean perspective, queues or waste. Key message: always use the minimum number of steps to accomplish an objective. Outcome-based thinking should be used to produce practical solutions that deliver valuable outcome. If a process, service, action or metric fails to provide value or produce useful outcome, then eliminate it. Although these principles may seem obvious, it is frequently ignored, resulting in overly complex methods of work that rarely maximize outcomes or minimize costs. Applying the guiding principle, keep it simple and practical. Ensure value. Every activity should contribute to the creation of value. Simplicity. Simplify is always a good thing to do. Why do things complicated when there is a simple way to do it? Do fewer things, but do them better. Doing less things frees up time for the remaining things to do them better. Respect the time of the people involved. A process that is too complicated and bureaucratic is a poor use of the time of people involved. Easy to understand. More likely to adopt if a process or guideline is easy to understand, it is easier to follow and embed. As per the first guiding principle I talked about, focus on value is always key on any initiative we are involved with. Last but least, but also just as important as the other 6 guiding principles, optimize and automate, also a guidance using the other guidance principles. Optimize and automate is also something we see as being key when applying Google's developed SRE, Site Reliability Engineering. See if we can optimize our processes. What are the manual, repetitive tasks we constantly do? Can we automate these tasks, freeing up expensive human resources? When applying optimize and automate, also the other guiding principles should be applied. Similarly, the continuous improvement model is key here. Take measurement on where you are, define the target and execute. I know I'm skipping a few steps here. Make sure you measure the optimizing and automation process before, during and at the end. Some high-level steps to take on the path to optimization are: understand and agree the context in which the proposed optimization exists. The overall optimization should help the company vision and achieving its objectives getting there. Focus on value. Assess the current state of the proposed optimization. Use the guiding principle, start where you are. Agree what the future state and priorities of the organization should be, focusing on simplification and value. Keep it simple and practical. Ensure the optimization has the appropriate level of stakeholder engagement and commitment. Use the guiding principle, collaborate and promote visibility. Execute the improvement in an iterative way. Progress iteratively with feedback. Continue the impact of the optimization. Considering above, also look at the continual improvement model. Really very useful in driving optimization and automation. Applying the guiding principle, optimize and automate. Simplify and/or optimize before automating. Define your metrics. Use the other guiding principles when applying this one. Progress iteratively with feedback. Keep it simple and practical. Focus on value. Start where you are. Now, just a very quick quiz. Only one question this time. Before I show the possible answer, think of what the answer could be. Which guiding principle are we thinking of? The correct answer is start where you are. The start where you are guiding principle recommends that services and methods already in place should be measured and are observed directly to properly understand their current state and what can be reused from them. The fourth section of this video. In this section I'm going to talk about the 4 dimensions of service management. As promised in the introduction video, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to talk about. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 dimensions being organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, value streams and processes. For the exam, you need to understand the 4 dimensions of service management. As I said earlier in my videos, this is not a training, just an addition to the learning path you are on to help you succeed on your ITIL4 Foundation certification journey. These videos are too short to cover everything you need to know. It is an addition or a refresher of the things you need to know. Let's move on to the next slide and talk more about these topics. The 4 dimensions of service management are extremely important to be successful in everything we do. The process we manage needs to look at all the 4 dimensions to be successful and sustainable to the future. Or to say it in other words, are relevant to the whole service value system. What you probably will notice at this slide is the red box, value in the middle. Value co-creation is what it's all about, the value we deliver for the stakeholders and our customers. The 4 dimensions are organization and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, value streams and processes. All these dimensions are externally being influenced by political, economical, technical, social, legal, and environmental factors, or just short, the PESTEL factors. To give an example of the 4 dimensions with respect to the incident management processes we probably all are aware of. People in organization. Do we have the right skilled people on the job? Partners and suppliers. Do we have the right support in place with our partners and suppliers? Information and technology. Do we have the proper knowledge management and incident management systems in place? The right applications to manage our deliveries and service assurance practices? Value streams and processes. Do we have the right processes in place? Or the value streams well defined? I've not spoken about value streams before, something I'm going to talk about in one of the other videos, but just to give a quick definition of value streams, the sequence of activities required to deliver a product, service, or experience to a customer, whether internal or external. The term value stream originates from the lean manufacturing process, which has a high focus on reducing waste in our practices and processes. Dimensions represent perspectives which are relevant to the whole service value system, including the entirety of the service value chain and all ITIL practices. As some of you might have seen, Excelis is integrated into PeopleCert website. All practices and information previously being available via Excelis can now be found on the PeopleCert website. This transition took place earlier this year. Now click view on one of the practices via the PeopleCert website. To bring it into practice is probably a big word, but just a feel on how the practices have been built up. They're not always easy to read for the first time, but pretty handy. The ITIL framework and its practices help me with projects to deliver them successfully. I wouldn't have been able to do it differently. Let's take a look at incident management. Here we go. As I previously mentioned, as you can see here, the references to the four dimensions in incident management practice. This is not just for incident management. You will see this across all the 34 practices consistently. The incident management practice is one of the 15 practices which have had a refresh last year, linked to the introduction of the practice manager path. Practice maturity was always around for the ITIL framework. What, however, is new due to the refresh is the option for a self-assessment. As you can read more about that in Chapter 7, Capability Assessment and Development. That, however, was not a goal for what I wanted to show you. As I already said, the four dimensions are integrated in the practices. Let us take a look at partners and suppliers. Here you can see part of the practice and how we need to consider the partners and supplier dimension for incident management. I'm not going into real detail here, but just quickly to show you how the dimensions have been described in the practices. Now back to the dimensions and talk about them a bit more in detail. The first dimension I'm going to talk about is organization and people. If you look at organization and people, it's all about us as humans who make it all happen. The way how we work, the company culture, and in some cases the departmental and division culture. How do we make it all functioning or work together, create the value for our customers, shareholders, and so on. Everyone has a role to play, fits in the way how we make it organize the work and create the organizational structure in the company. Although on that last note, there are some exceptional companies where the policy is everyone is equal in driving the company's success. There is no CEO. Everyone has the same rights or is the CEO. I have never come across such a company which applies this principle. If someone watching this video knows an example, please share it with me, other obviously than one or two persons companies. Just having the right hierarchy in an organization does not make an organization successful. It needs to have the right people with the proper skills, culture, and to achieve its objectives. People are a key element in this dimension. As the organization evolves, the people will need to evolve with it to keep the right skills, attitudes, and behaviors within the organization. Organizations keep on growing, changing. What looked complicated 5 years ago and took weeks to complete, we probably do today in a day or less, as an example from my personal experiences. Everyone in the organization needs to understand their role in delivering value for, but also how to facilitate company in achieving its vision with cascaded objectives from the top down to the operational levels in the organization. Having a shared vision on what needs to be delivered will assist in breaking down organizational silos. As you can see in this slide, dimension, organization and people covers roles and responsibilities, skills required, culture and organizational structures. The second dimension of service management I'm going to talk about is information and technology. Similar to the other dimensions, information and technology is applicable to service management, but also on the services it manages. This includes but is not limited to the technologies which service management support. For instance, knowledge management, inventory systems, communication systems, and analytic tools. The information architecture will have to be evaluated continuously, keeping in mind the reliability, accessibility, accuracy, and relevance of the information provided to users and also the exchange of information between services. Service management is more and more supported by artificial intelligence and other cognitive tools. In some cases, this is, however, not possible due to regulatory requirements and applicable security policies. The challenge of information management, such as security and regulatory compliance requirements, for example, the GDPR in the European Union and the California Consumer Privacy Act in the United States, are also a focus of this dimension. For many services, information management is the way how value is co-created between service providers and service consumers. This is something which will be happening more and more when service providers are using cloud services from other parties like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and so on. Services being used to deliver service to service provider customers. As I did show earlier in this video, detailed information about the dimensions of service management can be found in all the practices. Most services nowadays are based on IT and are heavily dependent on it. When considering a technology for use in the planning, design, transition, or operation of a product or service, questions an organization may ask include what I show here on this slide, obviously not limited to this. Do we have any regulatory internal policies, security control channels? Can we continue using the service in the long term, or will it be sunsetting next year? The risk of embracing new technologies similar to the risk of holding on to the old technologies. Is it in line with our strategy? Will it help us reach the company vision? Can we maintain and manage the new technology? Do we have the right skills? Can we apply automation? Can we manage it efficiently? Does the technology offer additional capabilities that might be leveraged for other products and services? What are the risks or constraints of the technology? By looking at these questions, do not look at them from just the information technology dimension. All dimensions should be considered. Some companies will be very keen in adopting new technologies, where others will stick to the already proven technologies. Mostly this is embedded within the company culture. The third dimension of service management is partners and suppliers. No company delivers all services on its own. It does use services and products from other companies to create and deliver its services and products for their consumers. They do make use of several other partners and suppliers. To give you just a simple example, most companies nowadays are moving their services into the cloud or considering moving their services into the cloud, using other suppliers to deliver their services to their customers. Part of the partner and supplier dimension is also the sourcing strategy, which has the task of making sure the company obtains the right products and services to run the company. However, there is more to this dimension. It's also looking at resources. Do we want to do certain tasks in-house, manage the partners and suppliers, and include them in continual improvement initiatives? At some point, even include them in value stream mapping to make the practices as efficient as possible. Factors which influence the partner and supplier dimension. Strategic focus. Some companies focus only on their competencies, supporting activities or sourced via partners and suppliers, for example. Culture. Some companies have a historic methodology and the way they do things. Changing this is not easy. Skills or lack of skills, which triggers for solving certain activities via partners and suppliers, or insourcing the activities. Costs. Costs are a big influence. Also, what do you see happening with the transition into the cloud, which is a cost transition from capital expenditure to operational expenditure? Knowledge. As a service provider might decide to do certain things with own staff due to intellectual property. External influences like regulatory might limit a service provider. Variations on demand might be flexible due to seasonal influences, where it is easy to make use of partners and suppliers to cope with the demand. This table shows the forms of cooperation that exists and the roles of the various parties. When you go to a store and buy something, for example a mobile phone, you receive the phones from the supplier and the outcomes are down to you. What apps do you use? And so on. You are in charge of the outcome. Goods delivered. When you procure a service from a service provider, have a contract with SLAs in place. Both service provider and service consumer have their own goals. There is no collaboration but cooperation between the parties involved. Partnership. A contract is in place, however the service provider and service consumer are working both towards the same goals. Objective here is the collaboration between the parties involved. Value streams and processes, a favorite topic for me to talk about, certainly when we start talking about value stream mapping. Looking at processes from demand to value end to end. How can we improve them? Stop doing things we should not be doing. Not an easy task, I must admit, but really very useful in continuous improving, delivering value for our customers. What is a value stream? A couple of steps that takes us from demand to value. Or to take the official definition, a value stream is a series of steps that an organization uses to create and deliver products and services to a service consumer. A value stream is a combination of the organization's value chain activities. I'm going to talk about a value chain in another video. The value chain is a generic operating model. The steps in this operating model can be followed in any order. The step taken in the value chain is what we call the value streams. Or to say it differently, the value chain can be seen as a set of building blocks that can be combined in any order to create value streams. The value streams and process dimension is concerned with how the various parts of the organization work in an integrated and coordinated way to enable value creation through products and services. The dimension focuses on what activities the organization undertakes and how they are organized, as well as how the organization ensures that it is enabling value creation for all stakeholders efficiently and effectively. Besides value streams, this dimension also covers processes. A process is a set of interrelated or interacting activities that transforms inputs into outputs. Processes define a sequence of activities and their dependencies. When applied to products and services, this dimension helps to answer the following questions. Critical to service design, delivery, and improvement. What is the generic delivery model for the service, and how does the service work? What are the value streams involved in delivering the agreed outputs of the service? Who or what performs the required service actions? Specific answers to these questions will vary depending on the nature and architecture of the service. Processes describe what is done to accomplish an objective, and well-defined processes can improve productivity within and across organizations. They are usually detailed in procedures which outline who is involved in a process and work instructions which explain how they are carried out. A quick quiz. Before I show the multiple choice answers, read the question and think of the answer before reading the options. You got an idea what a possible answer might be? I'll give you a few more seconds for the right answer. The correct answer is value streams and processes. The value streams and process dimension focuses on what activities the organization undertakes and how they are organized, as well as how the organization ensures that it's enabling value creation for all stakeholders efficiently and effectively. Welcome to the fifth part of this video. In this part, I'm going to talk about the ITIL Continual Improvement Model. As promised in the introduction video, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to talk about. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Continual Improvement Model. Continual improvement is like the word already says, continuous. Everything keeps changing, hence we need to keep focusing on how we do things better or smarter. Continuously improving the practices and processes. Also, the continuous improvement practices should be reviewed regularly for improvement. Continual improvement is recurring organizational activity performed at all levels to ensure that an organization's performance continually meets stakeholders' expectations. ITIL4 supports continual improvement with the ITIL Continued Improvement Model. The Continual Improvement Model is not mentioned explicitly as a specific topic in the syllabus. However, it is part of the service value system and all the practices. You will come across the Continual Improvement Model in the practices. Furthermore, it is part of the core of the service value system. Just a quick reminder, the service value system. The guiding principles, governance, the service value chain or the operating model, the 34 practices of service management and continual improvement. Having a good understanding of the model will also be beneficial in normal day-to-day work. It is universal applicable. Change is in the end the only constant. Hence, we need to continually review how we can become better. Besides, continual improvement is part of the service value system. That's also one of the 34 practices. The continual improvement model is a lightweight model and can be easily followed or adapted to fit everyone's needs. Besides the improvement model, I'm also covering the continual improvement management practice. Now, let's move on to the next slide and talk more about continual improvement. As just mentioned before, I'm going to talk about the continual improvement model. I'm going to cover the continual improvement practice first. For a better understanding, first some definitions from the practice and what you need to know for your exam in the next slides. If you want, you can read with me. Improvement, a deliberate introduced change that results in increased value for one or more stakeholders. Not on the slide, value, a benefit or usefulness for one or more stakeholders. Vision, a defined aspiration of what an organization would like to become in the future. A vision is very important. It is the basis for the strategy and direction of the company. In some companies you will see a department or division vision, which is derived from the company vision. All designed to achieve the overall vision of the company, which also can be the situation for a non-profit organization. Improvement Register, or short SIR, a database or structured document used to record and manage improvement initiatives through their life cycles. The Continual Improvement Register can be at company level or departmental level. Feedback loop, part of the output of an activity that is used for new input. Feedback is key in everything we do, hence also for continual improvement. Practice success factor, a complex functional component of a practice that is required for the practice to fulfill its purpose. I'm going to talk more about practice success factors in the next slides. The purpose of continual improvement practice is to ensure that an organization's practices and services remain in sync with evolving business requirements. This is achieved through ongoing enhancement to products, services, practices, or any other elements related to the management of products and services. To give an example, imagine a team that creates and maintains a product. They regularly review the processes and practices to ensure they stay up to date with industry trends and user needs, or what is the competition doing. If they notice any inefficiencies or areas for improvement, they adjust the development process, tools, or documentation. This is an ongoing effort to enhance the products and services and aligns with the continual improvement practice. You do not need to remember the purpose word for word, but you need to know what the purpose of the practice is, what this means, what is its goal. The key activities of continual improvement practices include encouraging continual improvement across the organization. It needs to be embedded and supported top-down. Everyone has a role to play in continual improvement. Securing time and budget for continual improvement. Bigger initiatives will require funding and time to execute them. You also will need time to manage continual improvement. Identifying and logging improvement opportunities. All layers in the organization should be able to log improvement opportunities. Often the best ideas come from the operational teams. There needs to be an easy method for everyone to register opportunities for improvements across the organization. Assessing and prioritizing improvement opportunities. Try not to do them all at once. It can be overwhelming for the teams involved or might even be impossible. Do not try to boil the ocean. Progress iteratively. Making business cases for improvement actions. Linked to the second bullet, we will need to create business cases to justify the funding, benefits and usefulness of the opportunity. Planning and implementing improvements. As we cannot execute all the opportunities at once, we will need to prioritize and plan a priority the different improvements. Measuring and evaluating improvements results. Coordinating improvement activities across the organization. We can have several improvement initiatives. We need to keep a holistic view on the improvement across the organization. We need to make sure the several initiatives are not working counterproductive. You will also recognize the activities when I talk about the improvement model later in this video. Here we have the ITIL Continual Improvement Model. What's the vision? Where are we now? Where do we want to be? How do we get there? Execute the improvement plan. Did we get there? And keep the momentum going. The best way to implement continual improvement is to have it embedded in your organization with proper governance in place, when required, resources can be made available for an improvement initiative. It is important that everyone is involved in the process. It should be part of everybody's task to raise improvements. In the end, the people dealing with the practices and processes are dealing with it every day. It is best to register continual improvement suggestions in a CIR, a continual improvement register. This can be at departmental level or at a company level. It is important that after a successful initiative has been completed, we keep the momentum going, but do not fall in the trap it worked previously, the next iteration we can follow the same path. One size does not fit all. The ITIL continual improvement model can be used in a traditional waterfall culture or in an agile culture. And do not forget to celebrate success and learn from the journey. The first step in a continual improvement model, what is the vision? Let me first zoom a bit in on visions. What is a company vision? A vision is an aspiration of what a company wants to achieve in the future. In a similar way, an improvement vision, what do we want to achieve with the improvement? We want to have a good view on the improvement vision. Does it align with the company vision and the company objectives? Also, do we have a good understanding of the stakeholders involved? If the company vision is to become the best car repair shop and the improvement initiative is about selling toys, it is clearly taking the company away from its vision it wants to achieve and certainly should not invest in this initiative. To keep the company on track with its objectives, improvements need to align with the company's objectives. This will also make it easier to get stakeholders buy-in for the initiative. Do not try to improve something which shouldn't be there. Improvement initiatives should always have clear objectives that communicate the intent of the improvement, the expected value, and the direction. Next step is, where are we now? Sometimes the current state is not known. If we do not know our starting point, it is hard to see if our improvement is achieving its goals and what the benefits are. It is important to get a clear understanding of the current state. If we want to be on a journey from A to B, we need to understand where A is to be able to plan the route to destination B. To get a clear understanding of the current state, it might be needed to do an assessment. We will need to consider all 4 dimensions. A small improvement can have a huge impact on other areas or dimensions. Therefore, it is important to keep an holistic view. This also includes getting metrics on the current state. A good assessment will tell us the gaps of the current state, but will also highlight the areas which are going very well. If we skip this step of the journey, we might reach destination B. We, however, never will be able to identify if it delivered a success, as our starting position is unknown. It's also more difficult to get stakeholder commitments to support the initiative or to initiate any further improvement initiatives. Now that we understand the current state, which is the starting point of the improvement journey, we need to define where do we want to be. For defining the future state, we need to keep in mind that we set achievable goals, which might not yet be the end goal, but an achievable agile step, getting us closer to where we want to be. If the steps are too far away, it might make them impossible to achieve. The goal of this step is to get a clear description of the future state, results from a gap analysis, clear objectives, KPIs. As with the step, where are we now, it is important that we define for this step the outcomes in measurable terms. In some improvement initiatives, we will require budget and additional resources. To justify these, a small business case might be required. Just as important, agreement from the stakeholders to move forward with the associated priorities and agreed resources. We should not skip this step. Similarly, as I mentioned on the previous slide, if we do not know where we are going and no clear destination B, we will not be able to deliver a successful and measurable improvement, one which is very likely to fail. We know where we are, we defined where we want to be. Now it is time to create the action plan. How do we get there? Do we have any quick wins? Do we have to complete certain tasks first? Are there any constraints we need to consider? What can we deliver iteratively? The guiding principles: keep it simple and practical and progress iteratively with feedback are also good guiding principles for setting up the plan. Make sure in the plan we can take small, visible steps and, if possible, deliver incremental value if applicable. Improvements can be large or small. Some might need stakeholder approval, others we can just proceed with the implementation. Nevertheless, make sure the stakeholders are aware of the plan. We deliver what was agreed in the business case. It is important that we have practical metrics in place which can show progress of the plan when we are taking action. In this step, we move in towards the execution stage. We are following the plan we set up in the previous step. We need to keep a clear eye on the future state. It can be possible we will run into unforeseen issues, assumptions were different than we expected, or other challenges which might require us to go back to one of the previous steps and change direction. The plan might not deliver the desired results, hence keeping track on progress and a desired target is important. Organizational change management, the human aspect of changes, and risk management are important practices to successfully deliver improvement initiatives. Once we completed this step, we should have reached the desired future state, which we defined in step 3. Where do we want to be? We finished our journey and reached the destination B, our new current state. Did we get there? Have we achieved success? In this step, we do an improvement review or a retrospective. We review the objectives we have set for the new target state, which should now be the new current state. Validate the metrics and KPIs. What did we achieve and what did we not achieve? Did we deliver the promised value and outcomes? Too often projects stop at a previous step and move on with skipping this step. If we have not yet reached the desired end state, we need to do another iteration of the improvement model to get to where we want to be. Throughout the improvement initiative, we also might have identified new improvement actions for future improvements. It is important we capture these in the improvement register. Like in the other steps, metrics do play a key role in this step to validate the achievements reached. Step 7 of the continual improvement model. Keep the momentum going. In this step, we do a few things. First of all, market and celebrate our success of the improvement. Make stakeholders aware, but also monitor progress of our improvement initiative. Making sure the improvement initiative continues delivering the achieved value and changes implemented do not fall back to the old ways of doing or working. This is also the point we review the open actions, trigger new initiatives for continual improvement, the ongoing iteration of improvements. It also could be that we have broken a large initiative into what smaller steps and run the improvement in an agile manner. And we start the next sprint to the improvement process. One key aspect of this step is also to do a retrospective, a lessons learned analysis. What did go well and what can we do better in the future? Lessons may be learned at any point during an improvement initiative. When mistakes are made, they should be corrected, but lessons learned should also be documented and communicated. Throughout the improvement cycle, we can have identified new ideas for improvement. It is important these are documented and captured in the improvement register. If we skip this step, there is a certainly likelihood that the intended improvement is not well embedded. Support might falter for future improvements. I already mentioned it earlier in this video, the guiding principles. These go hand in hand with the continual improvement model. Pause the video and take a quick look where the guiding principles link to the improvement model. Does it make sense to you? Not part of the foundation knowledge you need to know, but an easy way for me to highlight how the continual improvement is integrated in all the practices, showing the importance of continual improvement in the ever-changing environment we are all part of. Not with the intention to talk about the maturity model in detail, but pure an illustration to highlight the integration in all the 34 practices. The ITIL maturity model has 5 levels, with the 5th level being the most mature level. The 5th level is for all the practices about continual improvement. Do we continuously strive for further optimization? Improvements of the practice, as you can see in the picture I'm showing here. A quick overview of the levels. Level 1, the practice is not well organized. Level 2, the practice systematically achieves its purpose through a set of activities supported by specialized resources. Level 3, the practice is well defined and achieves its purpose in an organized way. Level 4, the practice achieves its purpose in a highly organized way and its performance is continually measured and assessed. Level 5, the practice is continually improving organizational capabilities associated with its purpose. If you want to know more about the ITIL maturity model, I recommend to look at Chapter 7 of the Continual Improvement Practice or any of the other practices. The last section of this video. In this section, I'm going to talk about the service value system and the service value chain. There is one more video, a video about the practices. I did not combine it in this video to make this video just not too long. As promised introduction video, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to cover in each video. This video I'm going to cover the service value system and service value chain, both very important topics. For the service value system, you need to understand the purpose and components of the ITIL service value system. For the service value chain or the operating model, you need to understand the activities of the service value chain and how they interconnect. The ITIL service value system describes how all the components and activities of an organization work together as a system to enable value creation. Each organization's service value system has interfaces with other organizations, forming an ecosystem that can in turn facilitate value for those organizations, their customers and other stakeholders. The purpose of the value system is to ensure that the organization continually co-creates value with all stakeholders through the use and management of products and services. The service value system consists of the following components. Guiding principles. I already spoke about these in previous video. Guiding principles are recommendations that can guide an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in its goals, strategies, type of work, or management structure. Or in easier words, guiding principles are useful tips that help a group of companies choose the right path. Governance, the means by which an organization is directed and controlled. Effective governance is crucial for maintaining order, achieving objectives, and addressing the needs of the organization to reach its vision. The service value chain, the organization's operating model. The service value chain is a set of interconnected activities that an organization performs to deliver a valuable product or service to its consumers and to facilitate value realization. The value streams are a core component of the value chain. Practices, the general management, service management and technical management practices, 34 in total. Practices are sets of organizational resources designed for performing work or accomplishing an objective. Continual improvement, a recurring improvement model at all levels. As you can see in this picture, the key input for the service value system is demand or an opportunity for products and services, and the outcome is value for customers and other stakeholders. The demand or opportunity does not always have to be external. It also can be an internal demand or opportunity. Not does it mean that every demand or opportunity will be facilitated. The guiding principles. I already talked about the guiding principles in a previous video, which you can find on my channel. Not going to talk extensively about the guiding principles in this video. Just take a look at my other video. A guiding principle is a set of recommendations that guides an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in its goals, strategies, type of work, or management structure. A guiding principle is universal and enduring. Practical hints helping an organization or people to achieve its objectives, strategies, and vision. The guiding principles are applicable to practically any initiative, all decision making, and to all relationships with stakeholder groups. The guiding principles can be used to guide organizations in their work as they adopt a service management approach and adapt ITIL guidance to their own specific needs and circumstances. Are the guiding principles unique to ITIL4? No, they are not. You also can find them in other frameworks such as Lean, Agile, DevOps, and COBIT, for example. The guiding principles encourage organizations in continual improvement at all levels. They are universal, applicable to nearly any initiative and relationships with stakeholder groups. Just as a refresher and a reminder, these are the guiding principles. Focus on value. Everything an organization does needs to map directly or indirectly to value. Start where you are. Do not start from scratch and build something new without considering what is already available to be leveraged. Progress iteratively with feedback. Do not attempt to do everything at once. Collaborate and promote visibility. Working together across boundaries produce results that have greater buy-in and more relevance to objectives. Think and work holistically. No service or element used to provide service stands alone. Keep it simple and practical. Always use the minimum number of steps to accomplish an objective. Optimize and automate. Resources of all types should be used to the best effect. Human intervention should only happen when it really contributes to value. The guiding principles go hand in hand with the ITIL continual improvement model. This is all I'm going to talk about the guiding principles in this video. If you want to know more, please do check out my channel and you will find a separate video where I talk about the guiding principles. Governance is the means by which an organization is directed and controlled. Under control of a governing body, usually a board of directors or executive team, governance is a top-down approach. Every organization is directed by a governing body, e.a. a person or a group of people who are accountable at the highest level for the performance and compliance of the organization. All sizes and types of organizations perform governance activities. The governing body may be a board of directors or executive managers who take a separate governance role when they are performing governance activities. The governing body is accountable for the organization's compliance with policies and any external regulations. A lot of companies use the EDM methodology: evaluate, direct, and monitor. Evaluate. What's the current situation? Where are we now? Is the strategy still applicable? Are we in line with internal and external policies, regulatory requirements, and so on? Direct. Policies and strategies are getting updated or created with the goal to bring us closer to the company goals vision. Monitor. Monitor the current performance, reviewing measurements. Are we on track on the set strategy and objectives? This is all a continual cycle. Governing the company is achieving its vision, what it aspires to become in the future. To take a bit of a different look at governance, governance is like piloting. The pilot directs the plane to its destination. Keep an eye on the weather. For this, he needs to have a forward look to prevent being surprised by bad weather. He's not an engineer, nor does he need to be. Similarly, no one will be able to build a 747 alone. It's all teamwork of all the different departments, managers managing the departments, and chief officers steering the company. The service value chain or the operating model. The steps can be followed in any order to deliver value or co-create value with the service customers, the way how we follow these steps or the value streams. Value chain activities or the various steps an organization goes through to create value. Each activity takes inputs and turns them into outputs. These inputs can come from external demand or from other activities within the organization. All these activities are interconnected, with each one triggering further actions. It all starts with demand, which via the service value chain activities delivers value for the stakeholders. All new resource are obtained via obtain and build. Planning at all levels is done via the plan activity. Depending on the scenario, any combination or order of value chain activities can be combined. These specific combinations do we all call value streams. Plan. The plan value chain activity is to ensure a shared understanding of the vision, current status and improvement direction for all four dimensions and all products and services across an organization. Engage. The engage value chain activity is to provide good understanding of the needs of stakeholders, transparency and continuous involvement and good relations with all stakeholders. Design and transition. The design and transition value chain activity is to ensure products and services continually meet stakeholder expectations for quality, costs and time to market. Obtain and build. The obtain-build value chain activity is to ensure that service components are available when and where they are needed, and that they meet the agreed specifications. Deliver and support. The deliver and support value chain activity is to ensure that services are delivered and supported according to agreed specifications and stakeholder expectations. Improve. The improve value chain activity is to ensure continual improvement of products, services and practices across all value chain activities and the four dimensions of service management. I did not highlight demand, products and services and value. They are not part of the value chain activities. However, they are part of the value chain. It all starts with demand or opportunity. Demand is a question for an existing products and services already available, where opportunity is an option for service providers to develop, enhance, and create products and services to create additional demand. The decision for developing new products and services is decided at the service value system level. The service value chain comes into play once demand is created. Hence, when you see in this picture only demand, and in the service value system demand and opportunity. A quick overview of the service value chain activities and their inputs and outputs. Each value stream is made up by different combinations of the value chain activities, meaning the inputs and outputs might not always apply in the way it is described in this slide. Plan uses the various input from other value chain activities, improvement opportunities and performance information to deliver the operational, technical and strategical plans. Engage. Requirements, service requests and feedback from customers and the users are input to trigger as output the other value chain activities. Design and transition takes as input improvement initiatives, product and service requirements to turn these into new, changed or optimized products and services, including the required knowledge as output. Obtain and build. Inputs are requirements and specifications for products and services to deliver new and changed service components. Deliver and support takes as input user tasks, for example, incidents, triggers from other value chain activities, and as output completed tasks, services for customers and users. Improve. All initiatives for improvement opportunities from all the value chain activities, which are put in improvement plans to be put in place, taking into account the various priorities, budgets, resources, etc. A quick high-level example of a value stream for a new service. Demand. Register demand and document the service requirements. 2. Plan. Decide if you want to invest in a new service. 3. Design a new service based on the requirements captured in step 1. 4. Build, acquire, configure service elements. 5. Implement elements in preparation for launch. 6. Deliver the new service for customers and users. Bit busy slide, I do realize that. Not going to talk about every cell in this slide, just highlighting all the practices. Practices, what are these? A practice is a set of organizational resources designed for performing work or accomplishing an objective. The practices always keep focus on the 4 dimensions of service management. You can find all the practices on PeopleCert website. The ITIL service value system includes general management, service management and technical management practices, which gives us a total of 34 practices. Practices are covered in more detail in another video on my channel. Continual improvement, something we probably all recognize. If someone has a great idea, everyone starts running, let's us implement it. It is a great idea before taking a holistic end-to-end view. The purpose of continual improvement practice is to ensure that an organization's practices and services remain in sync with evolving business requirements. This is achieved through ongoing enhancement to products, services, practices, or any other elements related to the management of products and services. Anyway, not going to talk further in this video over the continuous improvement model. Look at the video on my channel on the ITIL continual improvement model. We reached the end of this video. If you like this video, please do not hesitate to like the video or subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching this video. Please do check out my other videos on ITIL4.